This is Elliot Eisenberg of Graphs and Laughs, catching you up to date on what's going on in Hillsborough County with the latest multiple listing service data. And let me tell you, your market is tight. It really is. Sale prices are up 4% for single and 8% for multi. This is above the national average. Your market is tighter and stronger than the national average market out there. In terms of sales activity, sales activity is up 5-6% for single fam and up a strong 25% for multifam. In part, it's because multifam is cheaper, obviously, at roughly $170,000 versus about $255,000 for single. But these are very strong numbers. The multifamily data for this month, the sales numbers were a record high, not just for August, but all-time record high. In addition to that, pending sales are up, and time available market inventory, how many days on market, they're very, very tight. You have 2.5 months of supply for single and 2.4 months for multi. Where's the fly in the ointment in all this is the question. New listings are shrinking and inventory is also shrinking. So 13 months ago, inventory began to increase for both single and multi. And for the next 11 months, single family and multi-fam inventory increased. It went up and then it began to go down. And 2 months ago, it began to turn negative on single fam. On multi-fam, it's still positive, but the increase last month was the smallest in 13 months since it began to rise. So it wouldn't surprise me if in 1 or 2 more months, the multi-fam inventory also began to shrink. So what happened was way back when in 2015, inventories began to shrink, and they shrank and they shrank and they shrank and they shrank until 13 months ago. Then they began to increase. But now they're essentially starting to shrink again. So your market's going to be constrained and you don't have a lot of inventory out there. You're in a strong market. This is a good thing. Consumers are happy. It's fine. On the national activity, there's a lot of interesting things going on. First, the Fed cut interest rates 2 weeks ago. That's going to help housing, no question. It'll help refi, it'll help purchase activity, and we'll get to that in a couple seconds. The second thing to think about is the impeachment hearings or impeachment inquiry that's about to begin in the House of Representatives. This has happened 2 times in the recent past. Richard Nixon in the early 70s and Bill Clinton in the late 90s. In both cases, the impacts on the market were very small, and overall fundamental economic activity and trends overwhelmed any impeachment hysteria or impeachment fear, if you will. So markets are not going to respond to this in any strong particular way. Don't worry about that effect. The third thing to think about is housing finance. There was talk recently, and there is talk right now, about privatizing Fannie and Freddie. The first thing that's going to happen is the administration, through regulatory reform, not through congressional activity, because there's no appetite in Congress to do anything with Fannie and Freddie, is to allow them to hold on to their earnings, quarterly earnings, and not give them back to the Treasury every quarter. This will build up their reserves and eventually allow them to go private in some shape, way, or form. I think this process is a long ways off and is only beginning. So I don't think there's anything really to think about here in any serious way in terms of mortgage prices changing and interest rates changing, terms and conditions. We're far, far away from that if it ever happens. And last but not least, over the last couple of months, housing has really gotten stronger. Existing sales, starts, and new sales have all started to do well. After 6 straight quarters of housing detracting from GDP, housing is now in this quarter, albeit a small amount, is going to improve GDP. This is a good thing. The lower rates are hopefully making a difference here. The market remains strong and household spending and consumption remains good, and that's the single most important thing. As long as that goes well, we avoid a recession. That's it for now. See you next month.